Hey guys, Booligan here with Booligan Shooting Sports. Today, taking a look at a project that I put together in the last week or so. This is my Masterpiece Arms MPA930T. It is clearly a MAC-11 or MAC-10 style firearm. It is semi-automatic, and I have ruined it by making it look a little ridiculous, as is my nature. A little bit about Masterpiece Arms and their product line. So they have a couple of different MAC style firearms. Some are in current production, some are out of production. There's the MPA30, which is sort of the full size, the longer version with like the 6-inch barrel. The receivers are larger. There's the 930, which is this one, which is the more compact model, about the size of a MAC-11, but still chambered in 9mm. They have top cocking models called the T models. They have the SST models, which are side charging. They have the MPA10, which is a 45 ACP, so beefed up, bigger everything. They have those in top charging, those in side charging. They have them in steel. They have them in aluminum, and they also have them in 5.7 by 28, and I think like 460 Rowland. Like, they have some weird ones. Unfortunately, and kind of sadly, they don't have all of these products anymore. A lot of them have been discontinued, and really what they're down to now are, from what I've seen, the aluminum framed 30 models, so the full size model in 9mm. I don't like that one, not for any particular reason. I don't like the aluminum ones. I think these need to be, a welded steel frame or receiver. I guess for a size comparison, this is the my Evo Mac, but this uses a VMAC upper, which is the same size as the 30 model. So you can see it's got a couple extra inches in the front there. It is a much larger upper receiver, and obviously the lower receiver is larger to accommodate that. But yeah, I like the small one, and I also like the 45. I'm still trying to find a good, MPA 45 model. We'll see, but it's discontinued, so I'm kind of at the mercy of Gunbroker. But this is a 930T. So I picked this up on Gunbroker. I paid way too much for it. It was the only one available in the country that I could find. I couldn't find any of them for sale anywhere, even using some of my resources at Masterpiece Arms to try to find one, and no luck there. But I got it. And immediately decided I had to make it my kind of soft cyberpunk, but I guess a little bit more tactical, a little bit sci-fi ish build. And here we are using some 3D printed accessories. Up front, there is this guy's got kind of a weird barrel. So these usually had like a 3.5-inch barrel that was threaded and ended right here. This one, the barrel goes out to there. It's a weird barrel length. It's almost like 5 inches long. And I don't love it, but I have it covered with a thread protector that threads on and solidifies that gap. And then a barrel shroud, if you want to call it that, with a built-in Picatinny rail at the bottom for whatever accessories you want. In this case, a TLR1 Streamlight, nice little flashlight there. Up front, you can see it's just a pretty featureless finish up front. At the rear, these pistols are fine as pistols, but what I really wanted to do was be able to add a brace to it. And of course, I've got my Booley brace architecture that I designed, and I use on a lot of things. So I wanted to incorporate that here somehow. First version that I did was this little back cap here that added a Picatinny at the rear. And then that way I could just mount, my normal Picatinny mount Booley brace hinge. This is printed at an angle like that so that you have the strongest layer lines throughout this, because if you printed it like that, you have a very weak layer line and the whole thing could snap off the bottom. If you print it like this, you will potentially have some weak points there, also at the kind of hinge points, if you will. And also you just need a ton of support in there. So it's printed at this angle, and that gives it the best combination of strength and ease of printing, if you will. It's not the easiest thing to print, but there you go. So here it is with this hinge mounted. This is how I originally did it, and I'm like, okay, this is a pretty okay setup. But this is a 3D printed part. This is a 3D printed part. Let's mash them together and make them stick. So I now have this. This is the first kind of prototype of it, and as such, some of it's a little rough, but it works, and it is on there just incredibly solid. But this is a little rear surrounding piece that slides over the back of the lower receiver, the frame, and has my hinge architecture built into it. Because of this, I was able to beef it up a little bit, beef up the hinge points where some people have reported that they've snapped. It also gets rid of the cotter pin. Well, it still has the cotter pin. Well, it has the pin, but it doesn't have a little locking pin up top. In this case, the pin is actually kind of integrated into it. So that way there's no extra hardware sticking out. It feels very much like a factory option. It slides over the rear of the receiver and is bolted in place using this nice little screw right here, easy peasy. And it literally takes the tolerances on this. I designed it really tight that you have to kind of tap this thing off with like a plastic punch in order to get it off the rear. It's that well incorporated onto it. This gave me the opportunity to add an optic rail at the rear, and in this case I've got my little Swamp Fox reflex sight on there. That's great. Great red dot. And it mounts easily on there. With this removed, you can actually still see the sights. Now, this model has the adjustable sights, which was a later upgrade. If you have a 930T that has the rear sight welded in as part of the back plate of the lower receiver, this will not work, unfortunately. This has to be with the adjustable sight model, so the kind of later ones. For the brace arm itself, it looks relatively the same as my normal one. I'm looking to see, my desk is swamped right now. I have way too many projects. But here's my normal brace arm, and here's this one. Obviously, this guy is longer and straight out the back. Well, that doesn't do too well for, strapping it to your arm and aiming it. If it's too high, you can't really use it as a brace. And its ability to be used as a brace is one of those important things that the ATF actually looks at. So I designed it to work as a better brace. So it actually brings the brace strap interface really right to your forearm where it needs to be, but also has the pleasant side effect of giving you a very nice cheek weld. If you were to rest your cheek upon the brace, you have a fantastic sight picture, both with the red dot or with the iron sights. So that's neat. It also has the benefit of kind of looking like the stock on a mini Uzi, which I really like. You can print this in either orientation so that it folds to the left or that it folds to the right. For me, I have it set up to fold to the left, and that's because it's easier for me to hold it, grab it, and deploy it from there. However, if you mirror it, and you can just do that in Cura, you don't have to design anything, you can print it in either direction so that it folds to the right or to the left. It's also, you can't really tell, but it's asymmetrical. So it's because I didn't want to reduce any of the strength of it. But at the same time, when it is folded, you have kind of limited space there for your thumb. So I couldn't keep it the full width like I normally do. And instead, it's on the inside portion, it's a little bit thinner just to allow it easier use. But the thing really went together quite well. So that's kind of my changes that I've done to it. When I received this from Gunbroker, it arrived broken. These have two different kinds of hammers available. The first hammer is a solid hammer, and these were known for giving you really terrible trigger slap. So they replaced them with these hammers. Let's see. Yeah, so this is the disconnector hammer. However, it's broken. The disconnectors in these basically got rid of that trigger slap, but the disconnectors themselves would only last a few hundred rounds, maybe like 500-600 rounds tops, and then they would break. So you were really replacing these, every couple of range trips. So yeah, benefit, no trigger slap. The downside, it is now a wear item. in talking with my contact who's formerly over at Masterpiece Arms, he was able to get me a solid hammer so that now I'll have a functioning gun, albeit with heavy trigger slap. But one of the things that you can do to improve the trigger slap is to have a trigger shoe. These have a very narrow trigger, and that trigger slap, when it's really focused on like less than 1/4 of an inch in your finger, sucks and it hurts. So I have a trigger shoe designed, and if you can hear some slight fans running in the background, that's because my printer is printing that now. I'll test that out. I'm hoping to get this out to the range this weekend, but I'll test that out and see if that improves the trigger slap in this. These are fed from Sten type magazines, and I don't want to get too dirty here, but I from Centerfire Systems, I ordered a 3-pack of Sten magazines. Now these are Sten magazines that for reliability's sake have been reduced to 20 rounds. They're a single stack conversion. They're filthy. I haven't washed them at all. I haven't given them a simple green bath, and even like moving your hand near them gets you filthy. So they're not the full like 30+ round capacity that these long boys have, but they're good steel mags, and I'm gonna mess around with them to see if there's anything I can do to improve the capacity or feeding or anything. But one thing I like on this, I love mag in grip submachine guns, even in semi-auto builds. But sometimes I don't love the long mag sticking out. So I have a second Masterpiece Arms magazine that came with my VMAC kit. They included Masterpiece Arms mags. And on this one, I have cut the bottom of it off, and I will be cutting the spring and building a new base plate for it so that I can have it'll be limited capacity, so it'll only be most likely, if my math is serving right, maybe 15, maybe 13, 14 rounds, maybe more, who knows. But that way it doesn't stick too far out the bottom, but will still give kind of a cool look. I actually love how this setup looks with a shorter mag in it. So that's part of the design stuff that I'm working on for this as well. For the rest of this stuff, it's going to appeal to a small audience. There aren't a ton of 930T models out there in this exact configuration, so not everybody's going to be able to make good use of this. However, this rear piece should work on standard 30 models, the steel frame ones, but I'll leave that to you guys to print and figure out because I don't have one. But I'm going to release, as with all of my stuff, I'm going to release all of my files first on my subscription site and then on my public Odyssey page. So all the files for this, including this brace arm, which is backwards compatible with all of my other Bully Brace hinge types, for at least the version 1 hinge. So if you like this brace arm, you can run it on, whatever gun you have that's currently running the normal brace hinge. So this is my funky little Masterpiece Arms 930T. I kind of had a joke, that it's ready to equip SEAL Team 6th and Crenshaw Boulevard, and everyone thought I was talking about Dan Crenshaw, and I'm like, no, gross, we don't talk about Dan Crenshaw. No, I'm talking about the neighborhood in LA where something like this would kind of fit right in, at least in the 1990s. But yeah, this thing, it was a ton of fun to design parts for. It's rectangles. Rectangles are easy. And hopefully it should prove to be pretty accurate. These are supposed to be pretty accurate with the fixed barrel design. And since it has a decent aiming point on it, it should actually work well. Reliability is largely going to be due to maintenance and magazines. And I've got some tips and tricks for that I'll be trying out. And yeah, overall, it should be a pretty fun gun at the range. So let's get it out to the range the next couple of days, I hope. Get some video of it and see how it goes. As always, thanks for watching.